Hey, welcome back. And this is a quick unboxing, or I guess it's not really an unboxing. I already unboxed it. It's more of a just a review, first introduction to another watch I got, and we'll get right into it. This is actually take three. I messed up the other day, and I just got interrupted doing take two, so we're trying it again. Hopefully, it'll go smooth. Anyways, um, this is another Helson that I got. And you'll see in the description what it is, obviously, but we'll get right into it. So it comes in came in a, pretty well fitted, small cardboard box, basic brown with a Helson sticker on it. I believe it's like orange, black, and white, something like that. Anyways, um, once that's out, you get this. It's your typical, um, pretty supple leather watch roll that you get from Helson. Um, and It's got the nice red suede interior, and what we got inside is this guy. This is the new Helson Shark Diver 38, as in 38 millimeters. They released this basically early first week of July or so, right around 4th of July weekend, if I'm not mistaken. It took about a week to get here. They had like limited small batches of a variety of colors. This was one of them. This white dial with black bezel. It's actually a full lume dial. The ceramic bezel is also fully lumed as well. They have a version also that has a different bezel. That's like I think it's titanium to match the case and the rest of it. It's not fully lumed because it has a black fill, but I believe the triangle, or maybe there's like a circular pip, I forget, but at least the marker at the top center, right, that you're going to time it by is loomed. And what else? They come in a variety of brushed finishes for titanium, as well as this one here that's bead blasted. I don't know if they put out some more stainless steel versions, but they should have both finish options for that as well. But we're talking about these. They just put out a bunch of titaniums. Um, there is a blue version and a black. I forget what else there is. I think those are the other colors. I believe that I'm pretty sure they did the blue one. I'm sure they did the blue one before. Probably did the black one too. It's pretty standard. This is a new one, and yeah, I think it's pretty cool. This one I haven't done a titanium watch in a while, and I haven't had one a bead blast finish in quite some time as well. I usually go for brushed, just something that always works for me. But I figure this is a really cool tool watch, um, dive watch, and it always gave me something about design. Always gave me some bit of feel or look that reminded me of the Tudor Pelagos. No, it's really different watches, but doesn't have a helium escape valve, but something about that's kind of semi-chunky, no nonsense, very serious dive watch. Just kind of seemed related, and I figured, well, yeah, why don't I just go with the bead blasted finish this time? It has a nice white dial that's fully lumed, and the titanium bracelet. I'm not sure if these are. I think it's a slightly different tone, huh? I mean, to my eyes in this room, yeah, it's not quite as dark, I would say, as the bracelet, although in actuality, when you have it on wrist and in person here, it doesn't show up as much as a difference as maybe it's showing up on screen. I mean, from this angle, you can't really tell. I don't know, maybe it's the lighting too, because this is more angular and it's picking up highlights and shadows differently than this. But regardless, overall, the watch feels pretty good. Lightweight, of course, but not overly lightweight where, you don't have any substantial weight to it. There's still something in there. It's decent, but I can tell the difference between this and the previous version I had in stainless steel with the blue colorway. It's definitely lighter. And so, yeah, you get this. It's a nice kind of, I would call hexad oyster or H-link bracelet. It's something similar, I believe, that maybe not this finish, but probably more like a brush one. But you know, for instance, Strapcoat, I believe, makes something similar to this kind of style. I'm pretty sure I owned something like this before on one of my tunas. But anyways, you also notice that the hands are skeletonized. There's no lume in them, and that goes for all three hands: hour, minute, and seconds. And you won't need it because it's a fully loomed dial. And I'll show you a quick shot of it at the end. I'll do a full review later once I've tried it for at least a few weeks, just to make sure I get a good feel for it and how it is in practice or in usage and all of that. But I really like the Helson Shark Diver design. It's always been they do a lot of great homage watches, and I've had a couple myself. But they have a number of original designs, and this is definitely one of their signature designs here, the Shark Diver. It's just its own thing, really. It looks familiar in some ways, you know, obviously with you know, triangles and dots for the markers. You've probably seen something like that before, but I think they did it in their own fashion here. Chunky crown guards and overall chunky case, but I believe this is, believe it or not, this case thickness is actually like 10 millimeters or something. Hang on a second, let me get my calipers. Okay, so let's turn this on. Reset to make sure it's zeroed out. This is about as good as it's going to be. So we'll just do a quick measurement. Okay, I thought maybe they said it was like 10, but still 11.8, less than 12 millimeters. It's not bad. And I think the mid case itself is probably closer to, actually it's eating about 6.34, so less, just a little over 6 millimeters thickness. Not bad. What else is there? Oh, lug to lug. Am I doing review right now? I'm not supposed to be doing this, but I guess we'll just give some quick measurements. 45, that's under 40, about 46 millimeters basically. So it's a really pretty good compact size, and they say it's 38. Let's see. I mean, kind of hard to say because yeah, so from like the 2 or 10 to 4, basically it's basically 38. But because the case is a bit boxy because of these broad shoulders or lugs here, it kind of squares out the case a bit more. And so I do find that this on wrist and just kind of in person, just like this, handling it, it feels more like at least a 39, maybe even close to a 40. You know, especially from the top view, minus this lug profile. I mean, but kind of this thing going on here always reminds me sort of like the last gen Rolex Submariners with the maxi case. It has kind of the squarish boxy form, but obviously the profile of the case is pretty different. I mean, maybe if they straightened, they didn't have these kind of curved down, you can imagine a little bit more straighter. It could actually look kind of oyster-like. Of course, you need a little bit more bevels, and it's a little bit smoothed out, you know, surface wise, but yeah, it always kind of looked like a maxi case, but more angular and beefier than that. I don't know, it's cool, it's original, it's kind of his own thing. And that tool, well, let's see, this comes with first, well, warranty card, nothing special here, and isofrane style. It does have kind of a vanilla scent, which is good. They make some good, they provide some good rubber straps as an option. I think this will look pretty good on this as well. And it does have matching titanium bead blasted hardware. Should be titanium. If not, it's pretty convincing, much like the bracelet or the clasp if it isn't one. And it actually looks like even the case back is supposedly titanium as well. It looks like a pretty close match to me. So I don't know. We'll see. So it comes with that, which is good. And kind of related, so you have to look at this. But in case you don't know, these shark divers they're really purpose built, and they don't mess around with their spring bars because they have actual like screwed, I don't know, it's not really a bolt, but it's a screw pin, I guess you call it. And it's like you need like an Allen wrench, but they provide you with a proper tool. And with these you need to kind of have a tool on both sides, one to hold down one side and the other one to unscrew, or perhaps the other way around, whatever. But you get the point that if you didn't have two, it'll basically infinitely spin the other side and you'll never get loose or tightened as well. So what they gave you here is this tool, but not only that, you split it apart and you get two of them. So you can attack both sides. And so one would hold down one end and you spin and loosen with the other, whichever way around it is, but you get the idea. And so it's good that they came with that to keep it around, because you probably need it. This thing can be quite the strap monster. I mean, you're probably not going to want to put it on a crocodile, alligator leather strap or something. It's not quite that versatile, but I think even a decent, maybe distressed leather strap would be pretty cool with this, especially if the thing develops some more wear and tear, which I imagine it probably will. I don't think they use any protective hardening or coating to scratch resistant coating on these. I mean, you can look here, even I only wore it for a day at work, and I think these are all wrapped in plastic too, especially up in here, and you can see there is a bit of mark from probably right here, like when it comes up. Doesn't happen often, but if you lay it flat or whatever, the way you're handling it, it may hit that on occasion. It'll probably happen on this side as well, but it's not as well. You can kind of make it out there. Hey, and then probably in the class as well at some point, and anywhere else that's high contact areas. But I kind of went in that knowing that, especially with this finish. That's kind of why I generally go with a brush finish. That brushing kind of hides it, unless it goes across the grain of the brush. Then yeah, you'll probably see it just as well. But there's a chance that you could potentially rebrush it yourself carefully and kind of reduce it if you do get scratches, provided it's not too deep. But I figured this is going to be a good everyday, if not work watch or just anything you want to throw it at it. And if it gets a little bit banged up, scratched, which it probably will over time, it's fine. It's meant to be used, and so far it's actually been running pretty good. I'm keeping measurements since yesterday night, and it's basically, I think, -1, maybe -2 seconds a day. I gotta check it again, but it seems to be holding there, which this is perfectly acceptable for daily deviation. I would prefer it was on the positive side, so that you can just hack it to let time catch up and then unhack it and it's be resynchronized, right? Instead of course, if it's minus, you need to hack it probably at the top of the minute, and then probably advance it to the next minute before whatever you're using to time it with, or to synchronize it with. You're gonna let that catch up again, and then set it once it's ready to be synchronized. Anyways, there is a dive extension on this. this is kind of a preliminary review now, huh? Well, we just talk about it, so you can check it out. Get a quick idea. This has pretty much been sold out because they only had like each color only has a few, like maybe even one. At least when I went on, and I was pretty quick to go on site when they announced it and check it out. But I don't know, like this particular one, I think it started off with two, anyways. If not, maybe three. I think five is pushing it. Let's say five and under, if anything. But I think it was maybe at most three. And by the time I was trying to think if I really wanted to get it or not. And then the next day or so, once I checked, I was just keep looking. I was like, oh, the inventory hasn't moved. But then eventually, when I last checked it, it's like, oh, they're down to one. So I pulled the trigger and I went for it. And I figure, what the heck, just been a lot of things I find on this that would match, that fits kind of the bill of what I'm looking for. I do have a white dial, black bezel diver coming in, but that won't be till the end of the year probably. It's one of those. It's from Borealis basically, but they have basically a 6-month plan. When you pre-order, pay about half, and then the other half once it's ready to ship. Usually in about 6 months or so, or half a year, which for someone who's into more quick, immediate, instant gratification, that seems like an eternity. But it's not bad. I mean, you pay. Usually the watches run about 500, so you pay about two something, and then another two something 6 months later. That's not that much of a stretch on most people's budget, right? Just to save up about 200 or so dollars later, and maybe even put it up front. It's not too bad. They make some pretty solid watches too. But anyways, talking about this, yeah, Helson's cool brand. And there's, again, I was going to say, there's a dive extension. I don't plan to go diving, but it's there. I already had it sized. My wrist is about just under 7 inches, but it's got just enough presence, no gap. And my wrist is like, this area gets kind of slender, or even can be rounded, especially on this back end. It tends to be a little bit more rounded, or I guess shallow in some ways. Like if you push here, this probably has the most kind of space underneath versus any other, I guess, at the corners around the watch for myself. And sometimes it's problematic, but you can see it's not that. Works pretty well. And I think larger wrists would be fine too, because again, I think this plays up for 38. It really does look closer to, I feel like, almost a 40 on wrist for my wrist. But great thing about Helson is, and especially the Shark Diver, they got like pretty much a size for any wrist. I mean, they go up. This is 38, I believe, is their smallest. So the next is 40, 42, and then a 45. I don't think they have anything above that. And then within those, there's different materials. I mean, there's titanium. Of course, they have stainless steel. They have brass. They have bronze. What else do they have? I mentioned titanium, of course. And then within those, they have different, dial and color combinations they're not all the same all around. And some stuff is just very limited edition. Or rather, it's not so much a limited edition as very limited production. They're not numbered or anything, but, they may do one or a set of some, and that'll be it. Though there are some that keep bringing back. They're pretty standard fare and, good sellers, and everybody's, it's just something they could always do. Like your typical blue and black dive watches always work. But and even have exotic dials, like not even, I don't think they've done a meteorite, but they do some other stones, or specialized dials on that they mix in, usually on their brass pieces. So it gives a pretty exotic look, is what I would call it. but it's definitely different, pretty cool. But good old stainless steel or titanium works for me best. So, yeah, I forgot to talk about this last time when I first made it. So got to that, talked about the tool, didn't get into that. I think we're set. I just think that this kind of matte finish, especially the titanium, I don't know what grade it is. I have to see if it's on the website, but it just darkens the watch quite a bit. It's definitely brighter in this video. It's actually like at least a shade or two darker than what you're probably seeing here. The titanium metal in the real world, like actually in front of me. I mean, I could try to adjust the if I try to adjust the brightness. That's probably a little bit closer to what you're getting, what I'm getting, and it looks pretty good in my opinion. So with that in mind, oh, I will say that the class, it works. There's just enough adjustments. It's fine, but I do find that can be hard to remove because this edge is actually, it's not razor sharp, but when it's sometimes it gets kind of tight for some reason in trying to remove it, and if you try to grip this, it really kind of digs, if not feels like it's cutting into your skin or flesh a bit as you're trying to work it. As such, sometimes I just reach under, like, if it doesn't work for some reason, I don't know, maybe it's the way it's particularly set and sitting, on wrist or whatever. It's, at that time, it may just have a particularly hard time. With those troublesome ones, I usually just slip my finger, just enough room behind so that it's right behind the scissor part, right, the folding mechanism, somewhere between that and the bracelet and the slip, and then just kind of move it up, and it kind of undoes itself, and it comes off like that. So it's not a big deal. I mean, I would prefer to take it off the normal way using this, but sometimes it really, I don't know, it's pretty tight coming off. Maybe over time it'll get looser and be a little bit more comfortable or easier to undo and unbuckle, whatever you want to call it, from here. But I always have a backup plan, which is going behind here. So let's just quickly finish up with a Lume shot. Again, this is not a review. I just went over the specs already, but I would definitely try to get an actual review after I've used it to give the final verdict and anything else I've discovered between here and there. And so let me go take out the lights. Okay, so I just gave it a little quick blast with my torch, and you can see, go, BGW9. I think it's looking a bit more blue in person, in the video. So let me make adjustment to the white balance so that it matches probably a little bit closer to what I'm seeing. It's right about here. And I'll just bump up the ISO slightly. So this is pretty close to, I think, what I'm getting visually right now, somewhere around there. Right. So, and yeah, again, I think that skeleton knife hand works. They're big and just thick enough, so even when it gets eventually dim lower, it's still going to be visible. I've had some watches that just too thin, the hands, and especially if the lume inside is the same as the background, they all dim to the same level. They just disappear, or just very difficult to read it. This will not be, and especially you got some strong blacked out markers, right? And I think it's pretty cool to have the hands skeletonized in this way. It's still easy to read, but it gives a different look than you would normally get from other dive watches, because the index markers are always going to be visible. Even some of the dial text, I guess, and I guess the logo as well, it does peer through the hand as you see. So I don't know, it's definitely a different effect. Could I have gone with lume in them? sure, but I don't really find it necessary. I mean, this is something different too. I mean, I have a lot of divers enough, and they all have, obviously you should have Lume in the hand, so having it done differently here uh, certainly makes a difference. So I'm just gonna bump up the ISO as it's dimming a little bit. It will dim to a modest level, but it's definitely going to be bright enough, and I believe last throughout the night. Never really been disappointed with Helson Lume, but I suppose if we had used the green formula, it would definitely be. I know they use a really strong and long-lasting formula for that. But what I don't like about that is that, well, one, I like blue Lume actually more. Just visually, this looks nice, cooler to me. But additionally, in the daytime, especially, is what I'm not a fan of, because usually that Lume paint, probably some sort of C3, is in the natural light, it tends to be a bit, got a greenish tint or a bit yellowish. It's not pure white. And sometimes it's also because it can be charged and so much that it's very reactive and strong that it's actually glowing in the daytime, so you'll get that effect. And I don't know, it didn't really work for me. It always was something that kind of bugged me. So it is one of the reasons why I sold a number of my Helsons from before, because eventually something about that Lume color, the green one that they use, doesn't quite work for me. I just the daytime, I just don't like how it's yellowish, kind of, or light green tinted, somewhere around thereabouts. But with BGW9, we don't get that. Daytime is pretty pure white. Although this, I can see that if this is in the daytime being charged, even if you move into a modestly dim room, not even all that, if it's, you can probably potentially still see some bluish tint to it in the daytime because of how strong it's glowing in the middle of the day. But it's nowhere near as distracting for me as green Lume. Sorry about the focus. Anyway, that's about it. It's getting kind of long, and I gotta do other things before the night ends. Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned. I'm definitely going to do some strap changes and eventually get to what was I going to say? A review, natural review of this later. Thanks for watching, and see you later.